J-Bone Nation, shaming of Jay. He's not a dopey dumb bitch. He gets laid. The court jester, the court DJ. It's time to dive into the case. To the case. Welcome back, my friend. How was your lunch?
Oh, it was good. How was yours?
It was good. I was just telling Jay behind the scenes, backstage there, that I did in fact make some egg pucks. So they're like, the timing of it was a little off. I think I probably started the stream a little bit early. It says up on our screen that they're coming back at 1:20, 2:20 Eastern. So like they should be wrapping up. My egg pucks should be wrapping up right now. And then they've got to like rest for 5 minutes. And then I'm going to gorge my face in front of all you, like on air, chewing very loudly in the mic, probably squirting like sriracha on there. A lot of loud chewing noises. So prepare yourselves. But so it was good, man. It was good.
Did you use one of the recipes that people shared to make these things?
I did.
Nice.
Haven threw up a recipe. Like, the only thing I had to look up was kind of the timing of the baking. So, because I cooked them at 350. I think peeking in on them, I think I overfilled the muffin cups a little bit, but they shrink down. Like, I know they shrink down when you pull them out. Because they're like, you know how muffins are. You get those huge, delicious muffin tops. Kind of the same concept with the eggs. So like a couple of them, I think I overfilled, but I'm gonna eat them anyway, man. You know what I mean? So what did you do? What happened? Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We love you.
I made a little coffee. Made a little iced coffee, not
Delicious.
UCC. Just a little. Got my George Costanza. My sister-in-law got this for me. For I am Costanza, Lord of the Idiots. Little Funko glass here. But I did tease, Bob. I did tease. I want to tell folks. This is something where I'm like, oh, I have a scotch of influence on the interwebs. I get a message on the old TikTok, which is where I have my most subscribers. I got a message, and it is from. Let me get it here. Let me see what it says. Stupid TikTok. All right, so it's from Random House Books.
Ooh.
Hi there. We'd like to offer you this advanced copy. I'll tell you what it is. If you're interested in receiving a copy, fill out the form below. Thank you in advance. So of course I filled that shit out. If it's free, it's for me. Like I did. The TikToks are there's on TikTok. I have like the TikTok creator shop, and people are always messaging me like and I'm like, you send me a free sample, I'll do it. I'm not paying for that shit.
Right.
So I actually did do a video for one thing, which was like a little sound machine, because they sent it to me for free. And someone else supposedly was going to send me sunglasses, so I'll do a video for that. So anywho, I fill it out. Today I go outside, and I go to the front door, and what do I see there? This book, advanced copy. This is from Valerie Burline. She's on Twitter. We follow each other. I've talked to her. She covered the Murdoch case. It's The Devil at His Elbow, advanced uncorrected proofs, on sale August 20th. The Devil at His Elbow, Alex Murdoch and the Fall of a Southern Dynasty.
Wow.
The only problem is, Bob, it's like 400 pages. I'm gonna have to fucking read this thing and then
listen, dude, start reading right now. Like, we want you to. Here's what we're gonna do every day. We're gonna carve out 10 to 15 minutes where Jay's going to read to us. Yay! Yay!
So yeah, I got it. This is kind of cool. I'm gonna read this.
That is awesome.
I'll let you guys know.
Let me ask you, man. Because we have about equally sized TikTok accounts. I have a TikTok shop too, and I always just thought it was bullshit. So like all these people that are like, most of mine seem to be like jewelry. Like these.
I get a lot of cheap shit. Yeah.
A lot of tchotchke bullshit.
It's a lot of bullshit, and I keep getting invites. A couple of them were like really cool things, and then I requested a free sample so like I could test it first, and they denied it. I'm like, why did you reach out to me? Then I request a sample, and then you deny it. Like, and one of them was like this like cool ring, and it was like $300. I'm like, I'm sure as fuck not buying this ring for $300. And then So
and then promoting it for you. So you wait, let me get this right. So you want me to pay you to buy that fucking ring so that I can then promote it for you on my TikTok. Where's my get? What am I getting? You know, because it's like some of them are like, oh, you know, they give me a percentage of everything that they sell that can be attributed to my TikTok thing. But you know, it's like some of it just doesn't fit true crime. You know what I mean? Like some of it, like I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I made a video. I made my first commercial for it was this little sound machine, which is cool. They sent it to me for free. It's like this big, fits in your pocket sound machine. Because I happen to use a sound machine to sleep, like a white noise machine. And I did a video. It only had like 800 views. I mean, I got the thing. They didn't complain about it or anything. Like they were, I guess, okay with it. I'm sure it's cost them like $1 to send it to me. Like, but I made a video. It didn't do well. So hopefully, if they send me the sunglasses, I'll make a better video and people will actually buy it.
Yeah, like all you have to do is say it's like, you know, just do something like these are double chocolate cookies, double chocolate cookies. And it'll crush, dude. That's all you got to do. It's like
my new tick. Let me. Have you seen this? I don't know how often you're on TikTok, but the new thing I find funny on TikTok, and I don't know if people on here know this account. I don't even follow them. It just came up. It's this older woman. I don't know older. She's like 60, 70. I don't know, but she's making like these dinners for her husband, and she's making them healthy. Like he's like this. She made like
sounds hilarious already.
It is. So she makes him like this lasagna, and he's like, oh, what is this lasagna? This doesn't look like lasagna. I don't know if I'm gonna like this. He eats it. He's like, this is the most delicious thing. She's like, well, I got news for you. It's split pea and like it's like this healthy thing, but it's so the two of them going
tofu noodles. And,
exactly. But he loves it. And one of his big catchphrases, like, I want 14 of them or something. It's funny. I don't know. It was. It really
sounds
funny.
good. See, I love shit like that. Yeah, I mean that's the stuff that pops on there. It's like I don't think it translates over to this, but you know, it's like. That's what I was telling AJ. I'm like, you know, man, because like they have, like believe it or not, they have like 67,000 subs on YouTube, but it's like all shorts, you know, so they're just doubling up on the content. You know, I mean, if TikTok goes the way of the dodo, which I mean, the bill's in place. Like, I think there's a deadline on that thing when they like in sales of that magnitude take a minute. So I don't know, man. Like I don't know.
I feel like there's just too much money to be made for it to just go away for good. It seems like, but are they there? Oh boy, here we go.
The egg pucks.
Egg puck time.
So delicious. Mine is so delicious.
Ooh, I went with red onion and ham in mine, with of course delicious seasonings and things of that nature. So thanks for bringing these up, babe. So I'm excited. So these are our wonderful sub and viewer Haven's recipe. I went with that.
Nice. So, look at this, Haven. Real time. Bob
real time
recipe.
She like y'all got me like craving. Like that was it. Like all the egg puck talk just I had to have them. So as soon as we went on break, I ran down there, started, you know, beating the eggs, adding all the ingredients. So now the one thing that I did not do, like typically I think I would saute the veggies prior to, but I figured an 18 to 20 minute cook time would be sufficient to make these things.
And you're a guy that always puts sriracha on your eggs?
I happen, no, not always. Like if Allie makes me like a breakfast bowl, she seasons so well, I typically don't need to. But with these, I like a little heat. I like a little heat with my eggs, you know?
Babe is a big fan of Mike's Red Hot sauce. She puts.
Oh, I love Mike's or Frank's.
Frank's. I'm sorry, Frank's. She puts that on a lot of stuff.
Now we just lost the Frank sponsorship because of that horrible blunder you made.
Well, what about? Well, we should get the sponsorship for your
delicious.
Nice.
Seriously,
we got to get one for your mustard because I'm sure a lot of people bought your mustard. I know people were sending like
a lot of people did. A lot of people buying were buying the paste. I had never ever tried the paste, but I'm assuming it's the same thing. And frankly, kind of like having a tube, because a jar is a little bit of a pain in the ass. You know, got to go in with the knife. Yes, make it up. I could see the tube being handy. You know. So, all right. While I rudely eat in your ears, right? Like this thing's got to be wrapping, right?
It's got to be right. It's got to be. They should be back in 5 minutes, folks. I can't. I don't know of any other witnesses that this. Then again, I didn't think there was going to be another criminologist for the last witness. So I got to figure they're wrapping their case, and I don't think I can't see who the defense could possibly call as in their defense. So like, I thought it might be done day one, and I'm wrong. We're already going into day 2.5. So we shall see. And again, folks, if this does finish today, we'll probably do something tomorrow. A little primer for the Black Swan trial. For folks who don't know, that's kind of like there's been hearings on it. This young lady is alleging it was self-defense. The state obviously is saying it's murder. So that's gonna be an interesting one. And I know there's some interest for it. So we'll try to. And there's been it's Florida, which is great because Florida sunshine laws they show everything. There was just a pretrial hearing on Monday, I think, and then me and Bob actually covered. I don't know how long ago, but the actual hearing where it was like, can they use a defense of and it was denied.
Jay, refresh my recollection. Were they only married for like 13 days or some crazy shit like that?
They have a kid, so I'm not sure if
I thought I had read something that somebody said that they had only been married, but who knows?
You could be right. You could be right.
It was on the interwebs, I mean, you can't really trust it.
They got married after 13 days, Dizzy said.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Diz. You can always count on Dizzy. You know what I mean? It's like,
yes.
It's like having a little encyclopedia of knowledge in my back pocket. And whenever I wonder aloud, she's like, boop. It's like magic. It's better than so have you seen I've had this weird device that's been dropping in my Facebook thing. It's like the Rabbit AI.
No.
It's some weird little square contraption that I guess is like they're putting it out to market and it's supposed to compete. It's like you carry it around and it's not a phone, but it does all the things that like a phone can do, except it's like all AI. So it's like if you have any kind of question, you can just press this button, like anything. Like you can ask multiple inquiries in the same like question. You're just talking to it. It can do like it can sort information. Like you can like take a photo of a chart and it'll like collate it for you and then put it into like a graph and you can email it to you. And it's like I was watching their launch video and it was like the most like amateur hour shit I've ever seen. But like I was kind of like rooting for these guys. They're like a bunch of young guys and they're like, oh, Apple's putting AI in their new phones and shit, so you might as well like not even do it. And these guys are like, fuck it, we're doing it, man. We're going for it. So I'm kind of rooting for the rabbit. And if you got any Rabbit AI guys out there, send Jay and I each one of them, and we will happily promote it on our YouTubes for you guys. So
Bob, you're going to promote AI? The Alley is like, are you selling an? If they'll pay us, Alley, yes. Well,
yes. I will
a serious offer. We're big influencers, so
100% sell my soul to the devil. You know it. I'm easy. Let's see. I think it looks like, what are we at? So 1 minute. I'm gonna put it up.
I got it up. So I'll let you know if it goes live. So it should be back any second now. It's gonna be pretty funny if they come back from lunch on the stage. It's like we rest.
Yeah, that would be phenomenal.
It would be.
I'd be super happy about it because that would be like, whatever the defense is going to put on, it's going to be brief. That I assure you. I mean, because you can always tell, like they're not even coming on like on cross. You know what I mean? It's like you can typically anticipate what type of resistance to a case you're getting based on the cross examinations. And I'm not blaming the lawyers. I mean, sometimes you just don't have much to cross on, I mean, that's the fact. So, ultimately, if they do put on any defense, I don't anticipate that it's going to be much of a defense at all. So, which theoretically we could get to closings today and get to the jury, which would be nice.
Mean, he does. What I want to ask you, Bob, is what, we talked about this. What will they do? This guy is refusing to come. So don't you have to in every case ask the defendant to do that thing where you say you have a right to test? Like what would they do in this instance where he's not like what would they do?
I think at that point the judge would force him in just for the admonishment, because he's got to tell him, it's completely your choice as to whether or not you want to testify on your own behalf, explain the ramifications of doing it, the potential pratfalls, explain that, look, they can't use it against you in terms of argument, saying that you didn't testify. They can't use that as some kind of evidence of guilt. So yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that the judge will have him come in, but I mean, they are essentially trying him in absentia,
By the way,
happens.
Are you live? Because I'm just seeing the judge right now.
Oh, let me see. Probably not.
There we go.
Probably not. Man, tell you what, dude. These egg pucks are on point.
Nice. Look at that.
Really good. Really, really good. Really good. Thank you, Haven. And I see you too, Spitfire. I know you were telling me about the sous vide. I'm going to definitely look into that, because those will be more like these are a little more like a souffle, but the sous vide ones are going to be like the ones that you get at Starbucks, and the inferior ones that they have at DD.
DD has those? I didn't know DD had those.
Yeah, they do. And they have like a little hole, like just to stay on brand. You know what I mean? There's like a little hole in the middle of it. I'm like, all you're doing with that shit is robbing me of egg. So you could take that hole and shove it where the sun don't shine, mister. Oh, man, I needed that, Jay. I'm sorry. I apologize for eating, you guys. I really
don't
do.
apologize. You have to sustenance. You need to eat.
Sustenance. Thank you, Jay. Thank you. It's true. I do. Well, Allison brought me the hugest iced coffee today. It was like a gallon. At some point, the chickens are going to come home to roost, and I'm going to really have to go to the bathroom a lot. Does coffee does coffee or tea make you have to pee more?
Coffee, I think.
Coffee. I think for me, it might be tea, like iced tea. Like iced tea, if I drink a big glass of that, it runs right through me. River runs through it, Jay.
You drink a lot of iced tea? I don't really drink a lot of iced tea. I'm more of an iced coffee guy.
Well, like if I'm drinking, like typically, oh my God, here's Allison, like lording over me.
Okay, do we have a witness for the state? Yes, Your Honor. We would call Kurt Rosenthal.
Kurt Rosenthal.
Kurt Rosenthal? Who the hell are these witnesses?
I don't know. They just keep coming up.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I'll tell you that.
Go ahead and have a seat there.
Cop?
Yeah. I have a feeling the ladies are going to
state your name and spell it for the record,
yeah,
please.
I was thinking that too.
Kurt, K-U-R-T, Rosenthal, R-O-S-E-N-T-H-A-L.
Mr. Nelson.
Thank you, Your Honor. What is your current employment?
The City of Dubuque Police Department.
How long have you been so employed?
I will have 22 years on this September.
What are your present duties?
I am an investigator with the Criminal Investigation Division.
How long have you been there?
I'll be back there for 5 years come this September.
Do you have any special training and qualifications required to do your job?
I've been through multiple trainings over my career specific to CID. I've been to crime scene schools, interview and interrogation, homicide school, and countless others.
Do you have certain trainings and certifications that are required as part of your employment?
Yes, sir.
Are you up to date on all of that?
I am.
On January 18th of this year, were you called to 1605 Avoca Street?
Yes, sir.
What was the nature of that call?
Shortly after 8:50 in the morning, we were alerted of a suspicious death call at 1605 Avoca. We gathered up in the office. At that point in time, we were advised that the decedent was Jennifer Dazey, and it appeared that it was a homicide.
Did you respond to that alone, or did you go with somebody?
No, at 9:03 that morning, Corporal Hoff and I got in a car together and traveled up to Avoca, arrived on scene about 9:10.
When you arrived at the scene, what did you do?
As soon as we got on scene, we were advised that the initial person who found Miss Dazey had encountered her son, Tyler Dazey, inside the residence, and we believed that he was still inside. So at that time, I went to the south side of the residence as part of the perimeter.
Were there other officers also securing the perimeter?
Yes, so there was multiple officers on scene.
What do you do when you take the perimeter?
We're just covering points of exit, make sure somebody doesn't run out the back door or jump out a window.
You also looking so nobody goes in while officers are clearing?
Absolutely.
Do you also check for signs of forced entry?
Yes, but based on where I was located, that really wasn't a duty of mine.
At some point, did you learn that the house was cleared and someone was in custody?
Yes, I heard radio traffic from one of the patrol officers inside that they had one in custody.
What did you do at that point?
At that point in time, I circled around to the front of the residence, and at the front door, I came in contact with my captain, Captain Style. He had already been inside, kind of briefed me on the injuries that he observed and noted that Tyler Dazey was in fact the person they had in custody. At that point in time, we kind of decided who was going to do what moving forward. And I was tasked with trying to interview Mr. Dazey at the law enforcement center. And then Corporal Stair was going outside to get a Tyvek suit so that we could dress Mr. Dazey. And that's when I entered the residence.
What did you observe when you entered the residence?
I walked through the living room and to the north portion of the house where the two bedrooms were. As I got in that area to my left in the west bedroom, I saw Officer Slight down on a knee, and he had secured Mr. Dazey, who was face down on the ground and was naked. Corporal Leck was also in that room. At that time, another officer on scene directed me back to the living room to point out Echo, the dog, dead on the couch. I then returned back to the area of the bedrooms. I peered into the east bedroom and I could see that Miss Dazey was clearly deceased in her bed. I took a few steps into that room. I was only in the room for maybe 15 seconds, but I was able to note the severe lacerations to her head and face. There was pooling of blood near her right side of her neck, and I could also see that she had a couple fingers severed on her left hand. I backed out, and then I went back into the west bedroom where Mr. Dazey was being secured.
Did you observe a toolbox in that bedroom?
I did. Inside of that bedroom, there was a large black and blue toolbox on wheels like a mechanic would have in their shop.
At some point along the way, this is much later than being at the house, we'll come back here, but did you have any involvement in tracking Kylie Frey's movements around on January 17th and January 18th?
I did later in the investigation.
How did you go about doing that, and what was the purpose?
I don't know if anybody spoke of this yet, but I think we have over 1,000 traffic cameras within the city of Dubuque. Pretty much every main intersection in town is covered. The downtown area, there's pretty much every single corner is covered. So I utilized traffic camera footage to track her movements throughout the 17th and the early hours of the 18th. At the time, Kylie was residing in the 2400 block of Jackson. There is a bank of cameras right at 24th and Jackson. So I started reviewing those from the morning of the 17th, and I was able to track her movements all the way until she comes to the scene on Avoca after police were already on scene.
Why were you tracking her movements via those cameras?
As part of any investigation, especially in a homicide, not only are we looking for evidence to identify possible suspects, we're also trying to exclude potential suspects. So in this case, we're just following up on her statements she gave to other officers about her whereabouts.
So when you start an investigation, it's kind of a broad net you throw out. You don't get a narrow focus and pick a couple people and only investigate them?
No, even in this case, day one, we arrest our suspect, but that doesn't end the work. There could be other people that were potentially involved. New information could come in, so we want to get on that early, try to figure out who is all involved in this family, friends of Jennifer, see what they had going on in the days leading up.
Do you know if Nick Frey was also tracked on cameras?
Yes, I believe that was tasked with Investigator Hoff.
And that's a common thing to do on any investigation, is that right?
It is.
After doing all of that, well, let me ask you this. Are you familiar with a Life 360 application for phones?
I have a general idea of what it is.
Were you provided with data on that from Kylie Frey?
Yes, Lieutenant Crable on January 19th had met with Kylie, and she provided her Life 360 data from her phone to Crable.
Did you end up with that data?
I did. After I had tracked Kylie over those 2 days on traffic cameras, then I reviewed the Life 360. I didn't look at that prior to. I wanted to have a clean slate, so I didn't miss anything when I was reviewing it. And those two, when I looked at them side by side, mirrored one another.
By the way, how long did it take you to review all those traffic cameras and track her on those days?
Well, I first pick her up on the morning of the 17th, leaving her residence about 9:25. And then I watch her until just short of 11 a.m. the next day. I have her at home throughout the night, Wednesday night into Thursday. I watched that camera throughout the entire night. So it took me hours to watch that 26 hours of footage.
Did you at some point compare the data from that Life 360 to what you found in your review of traffic cameras?
Yes, I noted they mirrored one another.
In all respects?
Ditto spit.
Sorry.
That was in all respects?
Yes, the Life 360, the first data, the oldest data that was provided to Crable was Wednesday afternoon around the 3:30 hour. So obviously I had more details as far as the movements. I had her from early that morning.
Moist was roundly rejected
So you
by the
didn't see
crew.
anybody leave the residence all night, the night of the 17th into the 18th?
No, she gets dropped off. She works at the Village Inn on JFK. She gets dropped off by a coworker right about 10:30. They stop right in the middle of the street in a white Nissan SUV. I can see Kylie get out of the passenger seat and then walk to her residence. I watched the entirety of that night on Jackson Street, and the next time I see her is right before 8 o'clock. She steps outside of her residence, gets in a cab. That cab drives her directly to the Village Inn. She goes back to work. She's there at 8:05, and the next movements I see from her is when Jennifer's neighbor, Jill Risselman, she picks her up in a green Jeep about 10:52 in the morning, and she drives her direct to the neighborhood on Avoca, showing up there about 11 o'clock.
And did that 360 data match up with that?
Yes, it did.
It showed that she never left her residence the entire night?
Correct. It shows her arriving at home from work on Wednesday evening, being home until I see her get in that cab and leave the next morning.
Now, in terms of possibilities, would it be possible for her to have slipped out the back door and evaded the traffic cameras and left her phone at home?
There's possible, and there's probable.
Yeah, Hammy, Allie said that it kind of reminded her of like a new gen Crackberry, like because it had a lot of the features. Like they were making a big deal of like the haptics, like, you know, that people like the clicking sound of the keyboard, like click, 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 click when you're typing, like, cause that's what people loved about the Crackberry, like the Blackberries, is that when you would type on that little keyboard, it would make clicking noises, and it had like the spinning wheel, which they got rid of. So they're like trying to bring back some of the features that people loved about the Blackberry, and incorporating it into just like a little AI answer machine, basically. I don't know. Yeah, it was kind of interesting.
Haven is here. Haven, go back to the beginning of the stream. Bob tried your egg pucks.
Oh my God, Haven, you just got back. Yeah, I ran down, threw your recipe together, baked them up, and ate them on air. So, and they were delicious. They were delicious. So they were a huge hit in the Mata household. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I feel no shame in having housed those in front of you guys either, just for the record.
Well, is it possible? But we have absolutely zero evidence showing that she ever left the residence.
Okay, now at some point in your investigation, you had contact with Tyler Dazey, is that correct?
Correct. When I entered the bedroom, when I was first on scene while we were waiting someone to bring in a Tyvek suit.
Did you have anything to do with putting on the Tyvek suit? Did you assist?
Well, I did. I zipped it up.
What's the purpose of a Tyvek suit?
In this case, it was to preserve any possible evidence that was contained on Tyler or Mr. Dazey's body, specifically if there was any blood, hairs, or DNA from Jennifer.
And that has little boots that go with it as well?
Correct. It's all one piece.
Did you make any observations about Mr. Dazey at that time?
Your Honor, I'm going to object, knowing where this is going. Pursuant to Iowa Rules of Evidence 5.401, 5.402, and 5.403.
Let's not
Okay,
talk about his
the objection's overruled. Go ahead. Ask the question, Mr. Nelson.
Did you make any observations about Mr. Dazey at that time?
Christy, you ain't lying, girl.
Well, the first thing I noted
No one
was
wants to
his
hang
erection.
Bob.
But then once we got him onto his feet, he had a blank stare on his face. He was moving slowly, lethargically, but he was following our commands.
Sir, did he have a throbbing erection?
Did you have any conversations with Mr. Dazey at that time?
Not really a conversation. I introduced myself. I told him that he wasn't being placed under arrest, but he was being detained, and that we were going to be transporting him to the law enforcement center where we would talk to him down there. I asked him if he understood. He didn't respond audibly, but he did nod to me.
Did you end up taking him to the hospital first?
We ended up shifting gears, and eventually Officer Hesselbacher and I would transport him to Mercy.
Why did you decide to take him to the hospital?
Based on how he was acting, we were concerned that he may have ingested some kind of substance before police arrival, and we wanted to make sure that his vitals were stable and that he was medically cleared before we took any further steps in the investigation.
What happened when you got to the hospital?
We entered the ER with Mr. Dazey. Staff directed us to the behavioral health room because it wasn't so much he didn't have any traumatic injuries or anything that needed to be dealt with right away. Hesselbacher took him into that room. I met with staff just to explain to them the purpose of us being in there and what we needed from them.
Was staff familiar with him?
Yes, one of the nurses specifically was familiar with Mr. Dazey.
Was Mr. Dazey examined?
He was by both nurses and the ER doctor.
What was the result of that examination to the extent you know?
They advised me that his vitals were all stable, he was cognizant, and that they would be clearing him medically.
Okay, so while you were at the hospital, was there any decisions made regarding search warrants?
There was. Prior to us ever leaving Avoca, we knew that we would be applying at this time for at least 2 search warrants, one for the house on Avoca and one for Tyler Dazey's person to collect any potential evidence. I contacted Captain Stile, my captain, and then Hoff, who was working on the search warrant applications, to see what we specifically wanted to apply for, what we wanted to gather. And it was at that time we decided we wanted to collect specimens of his urine and his blood to go along with other items.
Did you stay at the hospital pending that warrant?
Yes, I advised hospital staff that we were going to hang tight there because we can't draw blood. We need the techs up there to do that. So we just stayed up there awaiting approval for the search warrant from the judge.
Was the warrant approved ultimately?
It was.
While you were waiting for the warrants, did you have any conversations with Mr. Dazey?
I did, and it was specific to the search warrant. Both Hoff and I assumed that Mr. Dazey lived at 1605 Avoca, but I had not confirmed that with him. So after my conversation with Hoff, I walked back into the BH room and I asked Mr. Dazey if he resided on Avoca. He just shrugged his shoulders. I then asked him if he normally stayed at his mom's residence, if that was his normal residence. His response was, "Whose mom?" I then asked him, "Is Jennifer Dazey your mother?" And his response to that question was pretentious.
Did you feel he was just being obstinate with you at that time?
Absolutely.
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
And it's leading, sustained.
He's a very adamant judge.
At some point, did Mr. Dazey indicate he needed to use the bathroom?
Yeah, that was roughly about 25 minutes after we got to the ER. He advised that he needed to urinate. I knew that we were working on getting a search warrant to collect his urine. So I asked him if he could just hold tight. We had some processing to do. That's when he stated to me, "I'm letting go. The keys are yours." I again asked him, "Hang tight for me. We need to collect." That's when I told him, "We're going to collect your urine." He then said, I got to pee. Again, I urged him to just hold on for a couple minutes. He then leaned back in the sofa that he was seated on, and I could hear him urinating inside the Tyvek suit.
Did he do that more than once?
Multiple times while we were at the hospital.
Did at one point you tell him that he could have held it?
I did. I was a little disturbed that a grown man wouldn't hold his urine for a couple minutes, and his answer to that was, wars are meant to be fought.
Wow. The war against urinating.
Did you try to collect a sample at one point when he was urinating?
Yes, approximately an hour later, we had already secured the search warrant. I had advised Mercy staff that we were ready to do the collection. They were outside our room, just getting their gear ready to go. I walked back in the room. Mr. Dazey advised that he had to urinate again. At this point in time, he had crawled down on the floor, asked if I could help him up. I helped him up off the floor. I told him, hey, you don't have to pee in your suit this time. Staff's going to walk in any minute. We'll have you urinate into a cup. Within seconds, staff walks in, and as they walk through the front door or walk into the door of the room, I hear him urinating in his suit again. I scrambled to try to unzip his suit and asked one of the nurses to bring over a collection cup. By the time that happens, we got just a very small sample.
Did you have another effort at collecting a sample?
Yeah, approximately 40 minutes later, Skrupski and I had,
They must have been drinking a lot of ice tea.
and I had transported Mr. Dazey from Mercy back down to the law enforcement center.
Or coffee.
I was at my desk. Skrupski was in the interview room with Dazey, just awaiting me to get prepared to come in and start interviewing him. Skrupski told me that he had to urinate again, so I asked Skrupski to escort Mr. Dazey to the bathroom, and I had a collection cup with me. We met in there. Again, I had unzipped his Tyvek suit to expose him. At that point in time, he thought that he felt as though he needed to urinate, but he didn't know if he could and thought it might be a couple seconds. He then stated, I'm not trying to dick you around. I told him, hey, we got time. We'll just sit here. Let me know when you need to go. Within a matter of seconds, he said, quantum entanglement, brother. And he started urinating. I was only a step away with the cup. I was able to reach into his stream and got a proper sample.
Wow. Quantum entanglement.
What was his demeanor at that time?
Completely cognizant, like he's telling me, hey, I'm not trying to mess with you here. I got to pee, but it's going to take me a second. He was, in my opinion, completely aware of what was happening.
Man,
at some point, did you observe and photograph Mr. Dazey?
Yes, as part of the search warrant execution, which we did after the interview, a part of that we took photos. I took photos of his person. During that time, I noted some abrasions on the backside of his right hand. 2 on his index finger, 1 on this middle knuckle, and 1 on this knuckle, and then a 3rd abrasion to his ring finger, middle knuckle.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
All right. So, unbelievably, Jay, I ran into this is like amazing. I was able to get my hands on the sketch that this fantastic officer Rosenthal took.
I know exactly what you're.
Let's see if I can get it to work. Oh, Jesus. I blew it, Jay. Hold on.
Wait. You can do it. I know you already.
Hold on, Jay. I'm going to do it. All right. There it is. Okay. We can see it.
I knew it. I fucking knew it.
So he was able to take this sketch. This is the sketch that was in evidence. He walked in, he saw.
I knew it. I
mean, dude, we were all thinking it. It's the first thing that pops into my mind every time some shit like that happens. All right. Sorry about that, guys. Just had to show you the very, very important evidence in this case. Let's get right back.
I'm sure they'll be putting it on the screen later, so don't worry. We'll see it again.
I anticipate
evidence.
We will see it later. Yes. All right.
Yes.
Show you what's been marked as state exhibit number 41. You recognize that photograph?
Yes, I do. I took that photo.
I would move to have exhibit 41 admitted.
Any objection?
Your Honor, I'm going to object pursuant to 5.403. I think that photograph is just flat out inappropriate.
Because what?
Just flat out inappropriate.
Let me view it, please.
Permission to approach?
Yes.
Is flat out inappropriate a legal standing reason for an objection?
No. No, it's not. No, it's not. You know it. You know it. That is, oh my God, Mia Beto. All right. Like I'm putting you in the corner for 1 minute and 35 seconds for not knowing that's from The Big Lebowski. That
Mods,
is, I mean, come on.
Mods, put her in the Lebowski timeout for the folks there. We have a special timeout.
That's right.
Okay, State's Exhibit 41 is admitted.
Oh, it was not granted. So hopefully they don't show this.
Yes.
It is what I think it
May I
is.
publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
Oh. What is it?
I think it's him with his dong, but I don't know.
Well, we saw the sketch of it. So
We did,
I don't
but that
think
was
you're
enough.
plugged in.
The artist rendering.
Were you able to identify the person that you took the photo of?
Yes, that is a photo of Mr. Tyler Dazey.
And you positively identified him as such?
Correct.
And is he the same Tyler Dazey that is the defendant in this case before the court today?
Yes, he is.
Now, you can take that down. Did you interview Mr. Dazey at the law enforcement center?
Yes. Corporal Garrell and I interviewed him at 12:01 p.m. that afternoon in a recorded interview room in our CID offices.
Did you ask him about his sleep from the day before, the night before?
I did. That is a question that I regularly ask most people that I interview, just their normal sleep patterns. And I asked Mr. Dazey specifically how much sleep he had gotten the night before. He advised that he didn't get much sleep, upwards to maybe an hour at the most.
Did you also ask him when he last showered?
I did. I asked him about his bathing habits, and he advised that he used the shower in the main floor bathroom. He advised that he had taken one shower the evening before after he had a workout. He ballparked that to be around 8 p.m. And then he advised he had taken another shower just prior to police coming into his home that morning. And that is why he was naked.
I keep suggesting to Steve and Dan that we should watch Log Jammin' on a Friday, Feral Friday. It's a classic, Log Jammin'. I'm here to fix the cable. I'm here to fix the cable.
Did you ask him if he owns a hatchet?
I did. Mr. Dazey acknowledged that he did own a hatchet. He advised me that he kept that hatchet in his toolbox within his bedroom. And he also noted that he had actually observed that hatchet that morning.
Did Mr. Dazey make any statements concerning his discipline and awareness of surroundings?
There were multiple times during the interview where he stressed how disciplined he was and how he was very aware of everything around him and what was happening.
Did you ask any questions about the layout of the house?
I did, and as soon as I asked that question, he said, "You were there." So he was obviously recognized I was in the room with him earlier that morning.
Did you ask him about his relationship with his mother?
I did. His response was, "It's fine, except for when she's acting sneaky like a witch." He then went on to talk about how his mother was part of a covenant of witches. I also asked, I followed that up with how he thought his mom thought of him. And his answer to that question was, "I think she hated me so much that she hated herself."
Cool.
Did you ask when he last had a conversation with his mother?
Yes, he advised that was just before police came in and got him. And at the time she was practicing witchcraft.
Did he say where that conversation took place?
Yes, he stated that his mother was in her bed, again, noting that she was practicing witchcraft.
Did you ask about specific events that morning?
I did multiple times throughout the interview, early on when I tried to hone in on what he was doing in the minutes, the hours before police arrived. He would either say that he didn't remember or he would shift topic. Then toward the end of the interview, I again asked him what he could specifically recall happening before police got there. And he said that he was having a conversation in his head that he did not want to think about. This conversation was about trauma. He didn't want to think about it, and he would not expand on that when I asked him what that conversation was.
Did you ask him about his mom's witchcraft?
We went into that in a little more detail. He described her witchcraft as putting evil on him. He said just evil. I then asked him how he felt about his mother practicing witchcraft. And I think that is when he gets into stating something similar to, I just gave up. I just don't care. I don't need her to validate me. He then followed that comment up with, why would I care what a whore thinks?
Wow.
You sit around and drink yourself stupid, fuck like animals, and ruin your children's lives. Why would I care what a person like that thinks?
Wow. So all jokes aside, this cop has really prepared. Like he's clearly gone through his reports. I mean, he's verbatim able to recollect exactly all the shit that this dude was saying, and it's powerful testimony. I mean, this is like really kind of getting to the heart of the matter here. You know what I mean? Like this testimony is powerful. It you know, I mean, whether or not it's true in terms of what he's saying is in actuality, or if it's just his perception of his mother. It's impactful testimony.
Did he say anything about, you know how witches are?
Yeah, that was in reference to, I asked him if he'd ever called his mother a whore to her face. And he said, yeah, I did. I asked how his mom responded to that. And he said,
no, it falls under not. It's a statement of a party opponent. I mean, it's a statement against interest. So that's like anytime the defendant makes statements against their interest, it's going to come in.
She's a witch. You know how witches are. Oh, I'm better than you. I will be your fear. I will be your enemy.
Did you ask him to explain his mother's traumatic injuries?
Yes, about an hour and 18 minutes into the interview, I got to the point where I wanted him to explain the significant and severe injuries that she had. And when I asked him how she got these traumatic injuries, his response was witchcraft. I then specified that I was referring to the physical injuries to her body. He again responded witchcraft. I then asked him, I was going to need a little better understanding of how witchcraft could cause such injuries. At that time, Mr. Dazey ended the interview.
Did you leave the recorder on when you left the interview room?
Yes, the recorder stayed on until we were all done executing the search warrant on Mr. Dazey's person. So at the conclusion of the interview, that's when I told him that we had to collect evidence from him, provided him a copy of the search warrant. Correll and I then exited the room to gather up our gear for collection. After the fact, when I went back and watched the interview to type up my report, I noted that Mr. Dazey made some comments aloud while we were out of the room.
What did he say? What were the comments?
He stated, I would gladly spend an eternity in hell if she could just have a chance at heaven.
Was Mr. Dazey also alone in the squad car when you brought him to the port, when he was brought to the port down at the law enforcement center?
Yes. So Skorupski and I transported him from Mercy back down to the law enforcement center. Once we pulled into the Sally port, the two of us exited the squad car. In that process, I dropped my portable radio, the battery bounced off, and we were looking on the ground for my battery. Then we got him out. So he was in the squad car for over a minute before we pulled him out. After the fact, I went back and reviewed that footage from the squad car.
Did he say anything during that time he was in the squad car?
He did. Mr. Dazey made a couple comments during that time. He stated at first, they will never figure out the psychology. You have a choice, conquer me or hell it is. He then paused, stated, I love you, I'm tired, and that was the end of the comments.
Now, before Mr. Dazey was taken up to the jail floor after the interview, did he say anything spontaneously?
Yes, it was actually, he and I were just standing in the interview room together because we collected the Tyvek suit as evidence. I was waiting for Gorell to return with some clothing. We weren't talking, I wasn't questioning him, and he just stated aloud, witchcraft, brother, witchcraft. A lot that is wrong with my life. When people are trying to get in your way, when you are just trying to pursue happiness.
This guy is impressing the shit out of me.
Did you tell him he was being arrested before he was taken up to the jail floor?
I did. He actually asked me if he was getting showered in, referring to going up to the jail floor. It was at that time I told him he was being arrested for the murder of his mother. His response was, it's hard to argue witchcraft in court, isn't it?
During all of your interactions with Mr. Dazey, did he at any time ever deny harming his mother or the dog?
Not once.
Thank you. I don't have anything further.
Tell you what,
Cross-examination.
This handsome bastard's one of the more impressive cops I've ever seen on the stand. Like that dude just knocked it out of the freaking park, man.
It would make sense if they ended with him.
Yeah, like he's the guy you end with. You know what I'm saying? Whew. Well done. Well done, officer.
Thank you, Your Honor. On direct examination, you talked a little bit about watching the traffic cameras related to Kylie Frey or Kylie Dazey?
Correct.
All right. Are there any traffic cameras on Avoca?
There are not.
And which traffic camera were you watching on the corner of 24th and Jackson?
There's a camera at 24th and Jackson directed to the north, which captures the block in which she lives in or lived in at the time.
And does it show the front door of her residence?
It does not. Her door is on the south side of the residence, recessed away from the street. The front door is actually for the apartment upstairs.
All right. And are there any other exits from her residence?
There is a back door on the main floor.
Okay. And I take it from your traffic camera, you couldn't observe those?
No.
All right. Life 360, and I think you talked about this a little bit, but Life 360 only actually tracks the phone, doesn't it?
Correct.
All right. So if the phone doesn't move, it doesn't track anything.
Correct.
And is it fair to say that, I know you, is it fair to say that lots of people know about the thousands of traffic cameras in Dubuque?
Oh God,
some do. Some that have lived here forever, even actively involved in crimes, somehow don't realize it.
Okay. But lots of people do know about them, don't they?
Lots do, lots don't.
Okay. And they're not exactly hidden, are they?
No, they're not disguised in any fashion.
Okay. They're right out there sitting on top of the light poles.
Correct.
Now, you talked a little bit about quantum entanglement.
That was something Mr. Dazey stated to me right before he started urinating in the bathroom at the law enforcement center.
Did he explain to you what quantum entanglement was?
Tried to.
Okay. What did he tell you?
It's hard for me to explain.
If I were to show you your report, I think it appears in at least 2 different places in your report. Would that help refresh your memory?
Absolutely.
Seriously, dude, like, what does it matter? Why does he have to show him this?
Look, and to Spitfire's point, this is really sad because the one thing that is absolutely evident from everything that he was saying is he was delusional. Like he was clearly in the middle of an episode, whether it was schizophrenic, I don't know. It sounds like it was, But again, this goes to the point that I was making during our morning session that, you know, part of the battle for defense attorneys in this country is to get the prosecutors to acknowledge that this exists. Like you want to be able to go to a prosecutor and say, look, man, I get this is a absolutely horrific crime that's taken place, but we can't ignore the reality of the situation. You know, if you've got somebody that is just not able to connect with reality in any way, shape, or form, how can you hold them criminally liable? And I know it's such a hard thing for people to juggle with, but people that have an understanding of just how real mental illness like this is have to understand that it has to be taken into account, you know, meaning that when I'm going to a prosecutor, I'm going to say, okay, well, before you charge this guy with first-degree murder, why don't we have him examined, like to see if he is like just teeming with mental illness, you know? So yeah, like your point's very well taken.
I mean, all of it between, you know, we were joking about he has an erection, he's naked, he's peeing in the suit multiple times. The things that he's saying, do these things seem like, and it's just like his sister said, when she said something to the effect of the way he said something, you knew it wasn't him anymore. It was someone else. This is, you know.
Yeah. I mean, this case is tragic in a lot of different ways. And it's like cases like this where, you know, we're still not sure what kind of defense they're putting on. I saw somebody refer to it as kind of a spatter, like a blood spatter defense, where they're just throwing everything against the wall to see what sticks, if anything, but just kind of like, these are all the theories that we have. Like, he didn't do it. You know, we heard that it wasn't him, it was somebody else, that the hatchet wasn't the murder weapon, that, you know, and then we hear about them talking about the Delta 8, Delta 9, whatever the case that may be. So, you know, ultimately we'll find out during the defense's case in chief whether or not his mental state in terms of where he was at with mental illness is going to be a factor in this trial. I mean, to me, it's absolutely, if they don't bring it up, it's going to be ineffective assistance of counsel. Like, because it's evident to anybody who's watching this trial that this wasn't a fucking act by this guy. This guy was, you know, like in the midst of like an absolute episode. Like, you know, it's like, I would expect to see his treating physicians, his treating psychologist or psychiatrist, whoever he may be treating with, or both, they're coming in and saying, yeah, you know, he's diagnosed schizophrenic. This is what he's prescribed. You know, this is how many milligrams he's supposed to be taking per day. And, you know, and like having that kind of explanation be made, but it seems like it's not coming, man. So I don't know.
If people missed the interview, at one point she said that he had been taken to jail, like separate from this event. And at one point he's like, please don't let me leave. Like, and there was not, they just let him leave. The police can't do it. They didn't have the ability. So he clearly has a history of these issues.
Yeah, no question. And Shiraz is a great, great question. I'm assuming that you've listened to the Dazey season. Like the best way that I could put it, and I almost feel like playing that episode of my dad's opening statement, because it was one of the most brilliant things that I've ever heard with respect to trying to explain to a panel of jurors just exactly what the insanity defense is, you know, and there's people that just are suffering from mental illness that you can't neatly, you know, tuck into some kind of DSM like categorization. You know, it just doesn't fit. He's like an amalgam of all kinds of things, but it's kind of like what the Supreme Court of the United States says about, you know, pornography. We don't know how to describe it, but we know it when we see it. And it's kind of the same thing with mental illness. I mean, with Dazey, he was walking around above his graveyard. I mean, like something was broken in him. Like he was not the same as the rest of us. There was no way to really, you know, categorize him neatly into any one particular category, because he was all kinds of things. But the one thing that you had to know, but in that case, there were 33 young men that were known to have been killed by him. There's no convincing a jury of anything other than we're putting them down. You know what I mean? That was the mountain that had to be climbed in that case, which, you know, I mean, like I said, it's very tough to convince people when somebody does that kind of damage to society that, you know, I mean, it's just the way that we are, you know, it's an eye for an eye, man. Like you don't get away with that shit. You know, they're going to put you down. So let's see what he has to say. I'm curious as to how, I'm interested to see how, because this will be like really into the kind of the mind's eye of Tyler in terms of like these thought processes that are going on.
Yes.
I'm looking at pages 50.
Can you point out this one you're referring to?
Yeah, there's that one, and then over on 52, there's, he talks about it in this area.
Okay.
My friend, the brilliant Professor Michael Osbrook, attorney extraordinaire, habeas guy, one of the cabal, one of the evil lawyer cabals. Thanks for sharing that heavy metal.
I'm ready, Mr. Blair.
Now, did he kind of explain to you what he meant by quantum entanglement?
From what I captured from that is, if I was sitting at home and I was doing something, say I was drinking a beer, and I thought about you, Mr. Blair, then all of a sudden, wherever you were on this earth, that you would get the urge to drink beer, that I could put thoughts onto you.
Okay. He also used that term in reference to kind of a possession, didn't he? And I'll refer you to page 50. He specifically talked as it related to possession.
Wow, Joe. Wow.
Are you referring to someone trying to take over your being? Is that? Yeah. Okay. He did make note of that.
On direct examination, you talked some about his mother practicing witchcraft. Did he explain to you how she practiced witchcraft?
From her bed on cell phones with the other persons in the covenant, and that she would practice witchcraft upon him.
Well, and didn't he say that she did that by meditating upon him and putting thoughts in his head and possession and things like that?
Yes, he went into that.
Thank you, Dom's mom. You're awesome.
He didn't actually talk about a conversation with his mother. He simply talked about witchcraft in response to you asking
so much
about the last time he had a conversation with his mother. Isn't that right?
I asked him when he last had a conversation with his mother, and he stated, right before you guys came and got me, she was practicing witchcraft.
Right. He starts going into, right before you guys came and got me, she was practicing witchcraft. Is that right?
That was response to his last conversation, his last interaction with his mother.
Okay. He said lots of things that really didn't make a lot of sense, didn't he?
Well, every time we would get to something pointed and he would start, acknowledge that he had a hatchet, then when we would get more pointed, then he would take me in a different direction.
He also talked about being worshipped, didn't he?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
And that tied in with the quantum entanglement and the witchcraft, didn't it?
Yes.
And I think also somehow tied into when he took his medications.
Correct.
If I can have just a minute, Your Honor.
No.
No
Finish it up.
No one's
Finish
talked
it up.
about that P. Lola's mom. You know, all we know about Jennifer was that she was fighting cancer, brain cancer, no less.
Wrap it up, buddy. Wrap it up.
Investigator Rosenthal, was the interview recorded?
Yes, sir.
The whole thing was recorded, wasn't it?
Correct.
Did I just do that? Sorry.
Yeah,
I think you actually talked about going back and
Whoops.
watching part of it
You
after
go.
you'd originally left the room.
Yeah, in all cases, I watch my interview in full so I can document the interview in a written report.
Welcome, Rona.
Welcome.
Yeah, so we love our UK subs. Love them.
We
Plus,
do.
remember, I'm going to the UK. I need all the tips. All our UKers. Tips.
Yes.
Speaking of which, where's
Approach the witness.
Charlotte been?
Good question.
Yeah. We miss you, Charlotte, if you're out there.
She did recently publicly buzz Steve and Dan. She sent them a care package, and they just
Yes.
posted it today, I believe, for everyone.
Yeah, it was awesome. They had put some teasers out there, but yeah, that was great.
Are we a little behind, by the way? Is there any blipping that can be done?
Let's see.
A little bit, almost.
A
Yeah.
little bit. Is there a sidebar going right now?
I don't think so. I think this jabroni's just. I guess there is. There you go.
Wow. All right.
I wonder what they've been talking about here.
I mean, that's crazy, dude. And love it. Let's see. Boop, 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 boop.
Folks, we're going to take a short break.
Oh boy.
Okay, folks, we're going to take a short break to discuss a legal issue outside your presence. This will probably be about 10 minutes or so. Remember the admonition I gave you before, report back to the jury room.
You can go home if you live right across the street. Just be back in 5 minutes.
This is interesting. I wonder what this legal issue
Yeah,
is.
you know what? I found it interesting when it came up, Jay, that I think it could potentially have to do with the first mention of meds. You know, like there was a question asked of the officer about whether or not his change in demeanor in terms of being able to answer questions in a more cogent manner was working in conjunction with the fact that he had taken meds. So I don't. Let's go back. I actually want to hear that portion.
Well, are they going to show it? They might show it, Bob. Or did they go to break?
All right.
Let the record reflect that we are in the courtroom in the presence of all the attorneys.
Yes.
Where'd it go?
Hold on.
Your Honor, I have a recording of that interview.
Ooh.
Offer that into evidence, and I would like to publish it to the jury. I would point out to the court that the state has opened the door to allow us to do so, that the rule of completeness allows us to do so, that the rule of completeness overcomes the hearsay objection. It doesn't overcome other evidentiary objections, but it does overcome the hearsay objection. That's specifically what what that rule addresses. And it's basically, I mean, you don't need me to explain the rule of completeness to you. You know what that means.
You make whatever record you want.
Essentially, Your Honor, the gist is that if they put in part of the story, we get to put in the rest of the story. And understanding this is one of the situations, a statement taken from a defendant, this is one of the situations where the rule of completeness directly comes into play.
Mr. Nelson, if you want to respond.
Certainly. This is not a situation where it's about completion because we did not play any portion of that interview. Had we done that, perhaps the completion might apply. It does not. Wanting to play part of that recorded interview is pure hearsay. There are no exceptions to that in the rules. And just because their client refuses to testify doesn't mean that they can come in and use hearsay to get that before the jury. If they indeed want the rest of the story, as they say, then the defendant can testify. He can say whatever he wants through testimony so that we can cross-examine him. That's what this system is all about, not about having testimony come in without the ability to cross-examine.
That's
Mr. Blair, do you?
So that's interesting. Is anybody watching Presumed Innocent? It's the new show on Apple. It's a series. They remade the old Harrison Ford movie, which is based on the Scott Turow book that came back. Like shit, it has to be 30 years at this point. This exact scenario came up during that, wherein the main protagonist, Rusty Savage, is the character's name. Who's played by Jake Gyllenhaal in that particular scenario. He was the former prosecutor. He's been accused of murdering his lover, and he's on trial. His attorney had some kind of myocardial issue happen in the middle of trial, goes down. Everybody thinks he has a heart attack. Rusty decides to take on his own case. So while he's cross-examining one of the cops, the judge had told him that one of the issues prior to is that because he's representing himself, if he put anything in through cross-examination or direct examination that was testimonial in nature, such as like, I'm innocent of these crimes. Didn't I tell you that I was in? How many times didn't I always say that I was innocent of these crimes, which is testimonial in nature. So he was trying to skirt the issue and avoid having to get on the stand to be subjected to cross-examination. So in that particular scenario, that was, and the judge called him on it. She's like, you open the door. You've got to take the stand now. I'm going to give you one of two choices. I'll give you a mistrial right now, or you've got to take the stand. You've made testimonial statements, even though it was during, your cross-examination of the cop, but you said you made various statements that were clearly testimony declaring your innocence. So obviously I have to give the state the opportunity to cross-examine you. So that this seems to be a similar situation wherein, as opposed to Dazey being up there as a pro se litigant and saying things that he would otherwise have to get on the stand to say, that they're trying to get in the video of his statements in order to avoid him having to take the stand. So it's interesting. I think that's what's going on here.
You have any authority, any case law, or any rules that you want to cite to in support of your request?
I can get you the rule for rule of completeness. I kind of assumed that you knew which rule that was. Do you need that?
No, you made the statement that the rule of completeness automatically trumps any hearsay.
If you read the rule, that's what it's addressing. It's addressing situations where evidence would otherwise be kept out under the hearsay rule. And by implication, it overcomes the hearsay objection. That is specifically what it's addressing. It's addressing situations where evidence would otherwise be kept out under the hearsay rule. under the rule against hearsay. And then that evidence is allowed to come in to complete the record, to allow the other side to respond and complete the statement. There is no restriction on whether that has to be done with witness testimony or whether it has to be done with, whether it can be done with a video recording of the statement that the witness was testifying about. The other thing about it, I would point out, Your Honor, is that my client has not, as of right now, has not refused to testify, and that's not the issue here. That's not an issue that's part of this decision, and it doesn't go into, it's not part of this. We're dealing with the fact that the state has put on part of it, has made assertions that are rebuttable with this, and we're proposing to complete the record and rebut those presumptions, those assertions.
You said the state has put on part of it. I think we can all agree the state has not shown any part of the video that you would like to show.
Right. But what the defense is arguing is that through that amazing cop's testimony, where he was able to unequivocally verbatim state various things that were said during this interview that I believe that they're talking about, the defense is arguing, okay, well, they did put it on. They didn't use the video, but they used the cop who was verbatim stating exactly what the defendant said in the interview. It's an interesting argument.
They have talked about what's on there.
Okay. So two components to this. Do you concede that what you want to play for the jury and offer into evidence is hearsay?
I would say that under the rules related to the rules of evidence, this would be an out-of-court statement by the defendant not being offered by the state, so it's not by a party opponent. Give me 1 second, please.
Loving you back, Nanny Apple. Welcome.
I am going to refer you to one piece of relatively recent case law. State versus Flores, Iowa Supreme Court case from January 26th of 2024.
Oh, new one.
Deals directly with the rule of completeness. It was a situation where the defendant brought up in testimony certain aspects of a statement within a CPC interview, I believe. The state was then allowed, in order to complete the record, to play the entire CPC video. CPC video. The only significant difference between these two situations is who's asking.
Well, and it was the defendant testifying.
Give me a second. I found Flores. It looks like it's 2 Northwest 3rd, 287. I think the portion of that case you're talking about, the Iowa Supreme Court says the rule of completeness applies regardless of which party opens the door. And I think that's the point you're making.
That is the point, Your Honor. That is at least part of the point that I'm making. And also the fact that you'll note that they went from somebody testifying about a statement that was made to being allowed to play the video, even though the defense hadn't played any portion of the video.
That case is certainly a little different factually. It deals with sexual abuse of a child. Do you know the age of the child from that case?
I do not off the top of my head.
Okay.
But I would note that they're not talking about in their analysis, at least in this portion of it, they're not talking about the what's the word? They're talking specifically about the rule of completeness and not the catch-all rule that allows you to go around hearsay for child victims. They're not, the residual exception, that's what I'm looking for. Thank you, Ms. Lassance. That's the word. They're not talking about the residual exception. They're talking about the rule of completeness.
So without having read Flores in its entirety, I said sort of two components here. The first one, I think you've conceded that what you're proposing to put into evidence and show to the jury is hearsay. My second question for you, if the state asks Officer Rosenthal one question about some interaction he had with the defendant, and Officer Rosenthal talks about one particular comment the defendant made, do you take the position that that opens the door to the entire video coming in?
Your Honor, I don't propose to be an expert about at what point the door is opened. There was a lot more here than one point and one comment. I understand your question, and I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
I would say that this is not that hypothetical, that this is a situation where they talked about it at length and where Investigator Rosenthal gave opinions as to whether or not Tyler knew what he was doing.
Okay, I understand that's not the circumstance. That's why it is a hypothetical. It's different than what we had here. I understand that. I think you get my point, and that is, at what point do you believe the door is opened up? And I think your answer is there isn't any fine line.
I think that's correct. I don't think there's some bright line that you can, but I think it's fair to say that that line's been crossed here.
Okay. For now, my ruling is A, the state didn't show any portion of the video. B, what the state has offered up to this point in time is permissible. It's not hearsay. C, I think we've had a motion in limine that addresses this, and I think it was agreed upon by the defense. Now, that doesn't mean it automatically stays out. It means that we have to discuss it outside the jury's presence if you intend to go outside the motion in limine, which you have done, and I understand that. But you are entitled to cross-examine Officer Rosenthal about any portions of the video. You've seen it. You can ask him questions about things that the defendant may or may not have said. They may be objected to as hearsay. I don't know that. But you can cross-examine Officer Rosenthal on his expertise and his take on things that the defendant said. You're entitled to question this witness. I don't think you're entitled to put in, I don't know how long the video is, but a lengthy video where your client continually talks and discusses things that would be hearsay. I don't think you can shroud that under the rule of completeness and just say all of a sudden it all gets to come in even though it's almost entirely hearsay. I'm not going to let you show the whole video. You can offer it into evidence as a court exhibit if you want for purposes of completing the record and for appeal. But I don't think it's appropriate to let all of that come in when it is hearsay, and you have the right to cross-examine this witness.
May I make one point, Your Honor, in response? I would note, Your Honor, that while I can cross-examine him, I can't make him change his opinion. And he has made opinion statements about that. The jury is entitled to form their own opinion, but they're not being allowed to watch the actual interview.
I agree with everything you've said. What's your point?
Therein is the problem. The jury's right to form their own opinion has now been abrogated. It's now been curtailed. They're not being given that right.
Well, to the extent that he offered his opinion, he did so without objection. So if there was a question that called for an opinion and you don't believe that he was authorized to give that opinion, I didn't hear any objections, so it came in. You said I can't get him to change his opinion. I don't know if you can or you can't. That's cross-examination. But I understand your point. Any other record you want to make on this issue?
Your Honor, at this time, we're going to offer this as a court exhibit.
Let's call it E.
E.
E as in elephant. Okay. And You have a flash drive with the whole video on it. We will call that court exhibit E, and it will come in for that purpose. It will not be shown in open court. It will not go back to the jury.
And for the record, and I want to be 100% transparent about it, we did cut out the part where he asked for an attorney.
Okay,
So
understood. Thank you. Any other record from the defense on this issue?
I believe there is one reference in there that we were planning on cutting out, although we hadn't gotten that done yet, but there is one reference in there to his diagnoses, and that could easily be cut out.
Okay, understood.
It hasn't been on that exhibit, but it could. I mean, I was not proposing to show that portion to the jury.
Anything else from the state on this issue?
Yes, Your Honor. The fact that this interview was recorded really has nothing to do with the testimony. The recording was not mentioned except by the defendant. The state didn't play the video and didn't refer to it. And if what defendant is standing on is correct, then anytime there's a statement against interest, then a defendant would be free to play any recorded interview regardless of whether it's hearsay or not. It would just be a complete defeat of the hearsay rule, and it would defy hundreds of years of evidentiary jurisprudence. So I'm asking the court to overrule that and not allow that to be done, not allow it to be played.
Okay, and that's what I've already ruled. Mr. Hoover, do you want to give the court exhibit to the court reporter, please?
What a failed opportunity to use the exhibit E as erection instead of elephant. What a failed opportunity.
Jay, I hold you fully responsible for that missed opportunity right there, dude. All right, so essentially
That's not true.
what happened there, so the argument became whether or not, so remember, again, if a defendant says something against their own interest to law enforcement or to an individual, that is going to come in as an exception to the hearsay rule or considered to be non-hearsay. But what we had here is the judge found, because there's obviously other statements that are made by the defendant when he was in custody there, when he was being interviewed, that aren't against his own interest, and they're not being offered by the state. So that was their argument. So he was saying it's not hearsay because it wasn't an out-of-court statement that was being offered, but it wasn't being offered by a party opponent. So the judge rejected that argument. He found that it was hearsay. So essentially, the only way that they can get these kind of statements in are ultimately, because the judge is not going to let them play the video. And clearly they want to be able to play the video so that the jury can observe not only what he's saying, but how he's acting. You know, I mean, they want, like, the defense wants to be able to clearly illustrate that he just wasn't in his right mind. Like, you'll be able to see it with your own eyes, not only hear it, but see it. So the judge has rejected it. They've put it into evidence for the purposes of marking it. But like, the jury's not going to be able to go and say, hey, look, we want to watch that video, unless they do something during the defense case in chief to get it in, which, you know, short of calling the defendant at the stand, I don't know they're going to be able to do it. Well, any out of court statements by the defendant or anybody else is technically, and this is to Haven asked, how can a video be hearsay? Because they're statements, they're out of court statements, and they're being offered for the truth of the matter asserted. And at least in most scenarios, because like when you play something that somebody says out of court, or you're having somebody to repeat something that was said out of court, if you're having them say it because if you're the state or the defense is saying, okay, well, we're having them repeat it, and not only that, we're saying that what they said is true. So like there's protections against it, and the reason that the hearsay exceptions exist are because of that right of the defendant to be able to cross-examine their accusers. Like that's where hearsay exceptions were kind of born out of. You know, it's like, hey, you got to come in and testify to it so we can cross-examine you on it. So that's kind of where it's at. Like videos, and I know that in a lot of trials we will see full-blown interrogation videos, you know, where they're going in there, but typically those will always revolve around the statement against interest that was made. You'll hear the defendant saying something that was against their interest, and because they find that to be inherently reliable. You know, there's no reason that a defendant would say something against their own interest unless it were true. Like, nobody's going to lie that they did something that they didn't do. So pretty interesting argument. Too bad Allie wasn't on here. She would have been like pulling up case law and shit.
Okay, are we ready for the jury and to resume cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Let's bring the jury in.
You can blippity blip, Bob.
Oh. Okay, hold on. Boop, 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 boop. Oh.
Oh, look
Okay,
at that.
thank you, sir. You are free to step down.
No, there was after that. There's nothing more.
No questions.
Okay, Miss.
I mean, once they lost that ruling, I guess they
I
decided.
had nothing.
Okay, Mr. Blair, whenever you're ready, go right ahead.
No further questions.
Mr. Nelson, any redirect?
No redirect, no questions.
Okay, thank.
All right, Rachel, if you are ever taken into custody, you don't say a goddamn word. That's the rule. Ever. The only thing that you say is, I want my lawyer. I'm not saying anything until I have my lawyer present. That's the only thing you ever say in custody, especially if you're innocent.
Thank you, sir. You are free to step down.
Will they rest?
Another witness for the state?
We have no further witnesses, Your Honor, and the state
Call,
rests.
J-Bo.
All right, very good. Okay, folks, the state has rested. That means that we've received all of their evidence. There are a few things that the attorneys and I have to discuss at this point in time before we turn to the defense's evidence. So I'm going to give you a short break again. This break will probably be about 15 minutes or so. Remember the admonition, report back to the jury room.
Can we approach real quick, Your Honor, before letting the jury go?
Yes.
Oh, I bet he wants to let them go for the day. Why would they need to approach before the jury, before letting them go? Are they going to say they got nothing and they just want to go to closings? Or this is interesting. Why did he say that? He's looking at the time.
I missed it. What did he say?
He said, "Can we approach?" He was about to give the jury a break, and I think the defense was like, "Can we approach?" So I wonder if they're like, "We don't really have anything to discuss. Let's just let's do the closings tomorrow." I don't know. He was going to give them a break, and he's like, and then they looked at the clock. So there's something to do with scheduling, or if they're, I guess we'll find out when they.
I mean, is the defense going to say that they weren't ready for this? I mean, they had to know. They had a witness list.
I think they might just be saying, because he said we have to, discuss what we're going to do because the state is rested to discuss the defense and the evidence. I wonder if they're like, just, hey, we're just doing closings here or what, if they're not.
Yeah. I mean, if they don't have anything, I mean, they should make their failing motion for a directed verdict. They should make that oral motion now. And then, if you're going to put everybody on.
Okay. The attorneys approached and told me that the defense has their witness here and ready to go.
Oh,
in the
they have a
interest
witness.
of continuing to move things along instead of sending you out to organize their evidence, they've got a witness ready. So we're going to go ahead and start with a witness
Who's
for
the
the defense.
witness?
Go ahead and call your witness, counsel.
Wow.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, we would call Corporal Justin Stair.
A corporal? What?
All right. Let's see.
Yes, the state rested, guys. Interesting. And no motion for a directed verdict.
I apologize, Your Honor. I thought he was out there
Yeah, that's
already.
weird. It's a blunder.
Wait, he's not out there? This guy just went up there and said, I got a witness, and he's not even there?
Oh, he left, Your Honor. Sorry.
He's in the
about
can.
that. Just kidding. Just kidding about that witness. Just kidding.
That's super interesting. Someone, a member of law enforcement that I don't believe the state called, that now the defense is calling as a witness. This is
What was dude's name? Justin.
I forget already.
Justin Corporal, though. Corporal.
Yes, Sheila, the state has rested. This would be a good time to remind folks, if you haven't hit that like, if you could hit it, that we'd appreciate it. Here he comes, Corporal someone.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead and have a seat there. State your name and spell it for the record, please.
Justin Stair, Justin, last name Stair.
Go ahead, counsel.
Thank you. Corporal, you're a certified peace officer, correct?
Correct.
How long have you been a peace officer?
24 years.
And you're currently a corporal. How long have you been a corporal?
That was probably about 8 years now. Or no, sorry, more than that, 12 years. Or yeah, 11, 12 years.
And you, what did you have to do in order to become a corporal?
Just whenever there's a promotional exam, we take a test and then we have an interview and then they certify a list and pick from that list.
And what are your current duties?
I'm sorry, hold on one second. Okay, right now I'm a street corporal.
And how about back on January 18th of 2024, what was your assignment at that time?
I was a corporal back in criminal investigations.
And on that particular day, did you take pictures?
Yes, I did.
And do you have any idea about how many pictures you took?
Not right offhand, a lot.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked as Defendant's Exhibit A. Okay. Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes, I do.
And was that a photograph you took?
Yes, it was.
And can you tell the jury where, in conjunction of the house, was that photograph taken?
So if you're looking at the house, it would be on the left-hand side where the driveway area.
Could you say that again? I apologize.
If you're looking at the house, it'd be on the left side of the house, which I believe that would be the east side of the house or southeast side of the house and the driveway area.
Okay. How far from the stairs would it have been?
I'm not sure by distance.
It would have been fairly close to the stairs?
If you're talking about the rear stairs, correct?
Yes.
Where the rear stairs was at, so if they're here, it's somewhere further away from the stairs. I mean, we're like right at the base of it going up. I know that it was somewhere right in on the driveway, more towards the driveway area.
Was there a particular reason you took a picture of this area?
Just taking photographs. This struck me as something to take a photo of, you know, if there's possible print or whatnot. At the basics of, or the base of the photos is just taking overalls of everything as you can see, or as is.
Sure. Did you have an opportunity to observe the rear door?
Yes.
And did you have an opportunity to observe the steps at the rear door?
Yes.
Okay. And what were your observation of those stairs?
Obviously there was snow on them, snow covered, and there was prints or impressions in the
and the steps.
Did you take any pictures of those?
No,
Was there any particular reason why you didn't?
no.
Then there's, could you put it down for a minute, Your Honor? You also took some pictures of tracks, correct?
Yes,
And I'm going to show you what's been admitted as Defendant's Exhibit C. Okay. And are these the tracks that you took a picture of?
yes.
Okay. And were you ever able to make any kind of determination as to what made those tracks?
I knew they were definitely animal tracks.
Okay. Do you have any kind of idea what kind of animal?
My guess would be a rabbit or a squirrel. I live in the country and I see those all the time every winter. So it's one of those animals.
Do you have any idea about how deep the snow was?
I don't recall right offhand how deep it was.
Did you take any close-up pictures of those tracks?
I thought there was some that I took closer photos, if I remember right.
Just have a minute. I don't have any further questions. Thank you, Corporal.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, Corporal Stair. How are you today?
Good.
Good. Okay, so one thing we can see from these photos is that it is definitely, can I keep that up, Mr. Hoover? Thanks. It's definitely snow covered out there, right?
Yes.
In your experience as a person and a officer, how great are photos taken in white snow?
Not very good.
Okay. You did take close-up photos of those tracks though, correct?
I believe I had some that were a little closer.
All right, may I approach?
Yes.
I'm handing you what I marked as State's
What
Exhibit
is this?
42. There are two photos here.
So,
Can you take a look at those?
granted, I had to excuse myself to go to the little
Can you
boys'
tell me
room
what those
during the
are,
photo.
Corporal?
What was the picture of? It looked like I
Yes,
caught the ass end of it.
The animal tracks.
It was supposed to be
that I
like a
saw
footprint, I
before.
think the defense is trying to say.
Animal tracks.
That you took a close-up of these tracks in Defendant's Exhibit C.
I believe so.
Okay, can you see in those photos the tracks up close?
Not really.
It's difficult,
Yes.
but can you make them out?
And this one, yes. And at an angle, yes, you can kind of see these in here as well.
Okay.
It's faint, but you can see them.
And in those photos, what do those tracks appear to be to you?
Animal tracks.
Okay, move to admit State's Exhibit 42.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
42 is admitted.
Can we take that? Take the picture down. Are you done with it?
Yeah.
It was a Wookiee from Endor. The Chewbacca defense.
How dare you, sir? How dare you?
Okay, can you put
Oscar
up
was a lovable creature.
your exhibit, was it C, Mr. Hoover, the other one you
The
referenced?
A.
A. Can you put that one up, please?
On a minute. Let me just.
So, what is this supposed to be establishing? That
All right.
like a bunny
It's up, Your Honor.
walking around, like hopping
I don't
around?
know.
Thank you. Okay, does it appear in that photo that there are several fairly distinctive footprints or tracks?
Yes,
Okay. Could it also be possible that there could be footprints or tracks from within the home or somewhere else around this crime scene?
correct.
And would it make sense for you as an officer to photograph this in case those things are found so you can do a comparison?
Correct.
Because snow melts, right?
Yes,
Those tracks are going to be gone at some point.
yes.
Okay. And may I put up, can you put up the states, please?
Yes.
I'm putting up Exhibit 8. Okay. Corporal, you have a laser pointer up there, right?
Yes.
Actually, I think I'm going to take it from him.
Okay, go right ahead.
In the first photo in States Exhibit 8, you see the staircase there?
Yes,
Okay, and anywhere in front in this photo, do you see an area where defendant's Exhibit A could potentially be from within this photo?
no,
Okay. Now, in the second photo in States Exhibit 8, we have that same door right there, correct?
yes,
Okay, in the corner down here, we see what appears to be a bit of concrete. Do you see that?
yes.
Would it make more sense that that is the spot that they're referencing in that previous photo?
It could very well be.
Okay, and as you looked in the sequence of the photos that you did, let me ask you this. Do you typically take photos in sequence as you're processing a scene?
When doing overall photos, yes,
Okay, and would it make, and you did it in a sequence in this case, correct?
correct.
Okay, so would it make sense in your sequence as you reviewed it, that this area would make more sense for the photo that they're referencing?
Correct.
Okay, and that's where? The driveway?
Yes,
Would it make sense that that area of melted snow surrounded by snow, ice, tracks was made by a car at some point?
could have been, yes.
Okay, no other questions.
Mr. Hoover?
Thank you. I'm just going to keep that up, if that's okay. Okay. Corporal Stair, I think this is the area you were talking about right down here, correct?
Yeah, somewhere in that area where I believe that print was from, yes.
And would there be any possibility of someone entering the house from this position right here?
Could they went? Yeah,
Would it make more sense that someone might have entered the house from over here?
they could have.
Okay. No further questions.
Nothing else.
Thank you, sir. You're free to go.
Thank you.
I mean, were there footprints on the stairs leading up to the door?
Sure weren't.
Telltale. The defense, Russ.
Okay, folks, now there are some issues that the attorneys and I will go through. We'll give you a short break. 15, this will probably actually be a little bit longer break, probably 15 or 20 minutes. Remember the admonition, report back to the jury room.
All rise for the jury.
We don't know, Haven. Like, honestly, we don't know. I mean, sometimes, yeah, they don't have it. There is no defense theory. It's just they didn't meet their burden. And did you guys find the footprints in the snow back there to be pretty compelling?
Please be seated, everyone.
Has it flipped? Has it flipped the script for you, Jay?
Okay, the record will reflect that we are now outside the presence of the jury. The state rested their case. We had a sidebar. All parties agreed that rather than the defense making motions at that point, we were going to take the testimony of Officer Stair because he was here and I think believed to be fairly short. The defense will make any motions they have now. The court will consider those motions to have been made at the close of the state's evidence and to be timely. Mr. Nelson, you agreed to that?
That is agreeable.
Okay, very good. Any motions from the defense? Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this point, we would make a motion in judgment of acquittal. Looking at the evidence in light most favorable to the state, Your Honor, the state hasn't presented any evidence of malice or forethought or premeditation as required in elements 3 and 4 of at least the uniform jury instructions. Your Honor, in fact, the evidence of kind of what happened is fairly scant, other than definitely there was a homicide that took place, but there's little to no evidence that there was premeditation involved in here. There was any kind of planning. There's little to no.
Huh? What happened? What the? What? That's outrageous. Boop, 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 boop. I'm live. They just cut that right in the middle? What the hell? Well, that was, so we didn't get to hear the motion. I don't know why they didn't think that we'd want to hear that. I mean, it's going to get denied, obviously, but wow. Yeah, that's weird. That's weird. I don't know why. So, I mean, theoretically, there could be more witnesses. And if you guys are kind of wondering what happens, typically after the state's case in chief ends, that's the proper time to make your motion for, here they call it for directed acquittal. We call it directed finding or directed verdict. It's all the same thing. It's basically saying that the state failed in their case in chief to meet its burden and to prove each and every element of the crimes that they've been charged with and are trying to get a conviction on. And, you know, it's one of those things. And it always has to be, it has to be viewed in the in a light most favorable to the prosecution in this particular type motion. So they give the benefit of the doubt to the state with respect to these types of motions. Obviously, just the facts that we heard, you know, there's no way that this thing is going to get granted. But I mean, there's kind of an interesting argument as to the first degree murder. You know, I mean, did they really show premeditation? But premeditation can really take place in a matter of seconds. It doesn't have to be something that was planned out over, you know, a period of time that's extensive. Premeditation can happen. I mean, cases have found in very short order. So Jay, like while you were gone, they just cut the argument off, like right.
What?
Yeah, they were right in the middle of the argument. It was like, you just shut it down. It was gone like a fart.
That's so weird. Why the hell did they do that?
I don't know. And I blooped it. I'm live. There's no, you know, I don't know. It's weird. I wanted to watch that. I predict, however, that it will be denied.
I just went to let the dogs in and I see that they need water. And my my kids, again, didn't fill the Brita filter. Somehow it's never them. I'm like, why is the Brita? It wasn't me. It was empty it's never them. They can never fill that fucking thing up.
Oh, man.
That's why they're my ops.
I mean, listen, dude, it's kind of like when they leave empty boxes of shit in the cabinets, you know, like whatever it may be, you know, something where if you know that you're out because they've thrown the box out, then, you know, next time you're at the market, you'll pick it up. Or putting like an empty container of milk back in the fridge, or for like us not filling up, like using the last of the water in our ice maker, because we have one of those portable ones. I told you that story about that letter we got from the village saying that
yes.
So like I ran out and bought like a portable ice maker, which I love. I actually prefer it to the fridge ice maker anyway. But you know, they'll use the rest of the ice and then they won't fill it up. It's the same concept as not filling up the Brita. Fill it, you know, finishing the Brita, finishing the nice purified drinking water, and then leaving you shit to drink. Your
ice too, by the way. We have like the trays, like old school trays. I went today, make my iced coffee, all gone.
Nothing.
We had like 3 trays, no
Nothing.
ice.
Nothing.
Ops. They're ops.
See, your kids are like the last 3 kids on the planet that know what ice trays are.
Yes, they are. We have an old school fridge. We do not, when we bought this house, and I don't think there's anything we could do because the area where it is in our house is just too small. They're like, now fridges they make, they're like these tall. Like we have like a small like fridge, so I don't know if we'll ever have a. Hopefully that fridge lasts forever. So,
wait, somebody's saying Law and Crime is live now.
So go back. Was it one of those glitches? So go back, and you might be able to see it. Like if you go back to it. And just
I never left it.
I know, but if you rewind it, sometimes when it glitches sometimes, but then you go back and it's there. Try going back. That's way too. Oh wait, maybe that was her. Was that her? Was that her?
No, that was.
It's not live. It's like I have it on now. It's live, but I'm saying if you go back a little bit, it might show you the argument.
I don't think so. Like they cut.
What was that? What that you went back to that she was talking about? Maybe that was her.
I don't know. Maybe yeah.
She said hatchet, so maybe that was.
I mean, we're like,
what's this?
Yeah, this is it. This is the
evidence, but we certainly have enough evidence
in
the record
right.
to.
You're right. What the?
We would ask that you grant our motion and judgment.
All right. So yeah, you're right. That's exactly what happened.
Acquittal. Looking at the evidence in light most favorable to the state, Your Honor, the state hasn't presented any evidence of malice or forethought or premeditation as required in elements 3 and 4 of at least the uniform jury instructions. Your Honor, in fact, the evidence of kind of what happened is fairly scant. Other than definitely there was a homicide that took place, but there's little to no evidence that there was premeditation involved in here. There was any kind of planning. There's little to no evidence of malice or forethought in this particular case. Additionally, I would say that the state hasn't even met its burden as far as Tyler Dazey is the one who committed these actions. All we have is Mr. Dazey was in the residence and that he owned something that may have caused these injuries. No affirmative evidence saying that Mr. Dazey possessed it on that day or used it on that day. So we believe that murder 1 and murder 2, there has not been a sufficient question for the jury made. As to any of the other lesser included, including voluntary manslaughter,
yeah, they're good there.
We won't at this point make a motion in judgment of acquittal for any of the remaining lesser included, aside from number 1, that again, the state hasn't generated a jury question looking at the light most favorable of the state that Tyler Dazey was the one who inflicted these wounds. And then as far as the animal abuse, Your Honor, while certainly, again, the state has failed to prove or at least generate a jury question looking at the light most favorable to the state that Mr. Dazey inflicted any serious injury, death, or injury on the animal. But additionally, the code section specifically has an exception, which if the defendant was the owner or didn't have or had the owner's permission to euthanize the dog in a reasonable manner, if the animal is in a permanent state of pain or suffering. And again, looking at the evidence in the light most favorable to the state, 1, the state hasn't proved that the defendant wasn't a co-owner of this dog, that even if he was a co-owner, that he wasn't acting at the behest of his mother. and that the testimony that was given was that it was one strike, and the dog died instantaneously. And again, the state hasn't provided any evidence that the animal wasn't at the time in a state of pain or suffering. So
What is this
with that,
fucking
Your
guy
Honor,
talking about?
we would ask that you grant our motion and judgment of acquittal.
The state's response.
Thank you, Judge. In reference to the status of the dog, our first witness said that the dog was
Nice
Jenny's dog, and that under the statute is all the state would have to prove. And we don't need to prove that dog to the exclusion of all potential owners. That would be something the defendant would have had to need to bring up. When it comes to the elements presented to the jury, the state's position is certainly that a fact question has been presented to go to the jury's consideration. Evidence was that when Nick showed up at 1605 Avoca Street on January 17th, approximately 8:00 p.m., Tyler was home that night. Ring camera from the front of the door shows Jennifer Dazey letting Echo in from going outside at 10:00 p.m. There is no more movement on that camera until 8:38 a.m. when Christy Fullman arrives at the home. What does she see? Tyler Dazey naked. As she sees him, she waits, and he then goes into another room. She then proceeds to locate Jennifer Dazey in the bed in the same residence with one Tyler Dazey. Police are called and they respond. It's clearly a gruesome murder scene. And long story short, they process the scene. They find a tactical hatchet that clearly is capable of producing the wounds that Ms. Dazey suffered, as well as the wound that Echo Dazey suffered. The medical examiner also testified to that same fact. If the jury looks at the photos themselves and looks at the hatchet, they are able to make a determination as to whether or not that hatchet, owned by Tyler Dazey, seen by him that morning upon his own admission, was in fact the weapon used in those crimes. When it comes to the issue of premeditation, deliberation, malice aforethought, and all the other things, number one, the state has alleged, and I believe proven, that a hatchet was used, which is a dangerous weapon, which changes the discussion for the jury. Second of all, if that is not determined, the state has shown that there were 17 separate wounds to Jennifer Dazey, one wound to Echo, that's 18. The jury can hear argument as to what that means and will be given an instruction that those things, premeditation, deliberation, all those things do not require any specific time, but state alleges that that would take some time to swing that hatchet 18 times. The state believes, considering this, even despite other doors on the home, there is an ultimate fact question as to whether or not the defendant committed these acts, and the evidence has tied him to it. And we are asking that you deny the motion.
Boner's got to be a yes, if only because, correct me if I'm wrong,
We would propose that the state's
wasn't his best friend named Boner?
theory of premeditation would essentially make it impossible to have anything other than murder in the first degree. If you struck more than once, then that automatically meant that you had premeditation, and that's just not what the standard is. So.
Okay, I understand the argument both ways. I think what the state's saying is,
either way,
if there's one shot and you pull the trigger, it's instant. If you swing something as dangerous as a sharp axe and swing it 17 times, that there's time in between each time that you strike a blow with that. That's the argument. And I understand the defense's point is, well, does that mean every time someone is hit more than once with a dangerous instrument that it automatically creates premeditation? I get it both ways. That helps to show that on that issue, it's a fact issue that the jury's going to have to weigh and have to decide. The motion made by the defense has to be considered in the light most favorable to the moving party. In this case, I won't rehash all of the evidence, but we certainly have enough evidence in the record to generate a fact issue as to both counts, count 1 and count 2. I am going to deny the defense's motion for judgment of acquittal at this time. Any other motions from the defense?
No.
No, not at this time, Your Honor.
Anything from the state at this point?
No.
Okay, we'll go off the record.
All right. So motion carries, Boner stays.
I got a good trivia or I was talking about Boner and Growing Pains, which is a great show. I think that's where Leo DiCaprio got his start. He was like the kid they adopted or whatever. But
that is correct.
I don't know if you know this, Bob. The creators of Growing Pains are huge Met fans, and you want to know how I know that? One of the reasons. What is it? Do you remember the name, the last name of that family? Do you remember what Mike's last name is, or
wait, Jesus.
Think about it. If anyone could name who the last name of like Mike and the main family.
Yeah, the family in Growing Pains. Oh my God. Oh my God. I keep blending into Family Ties. Like, so, what was it?
We'll see if
somebody will know. Without looking, don't Google it, because no one's impressed if you can Google and then give us the name.
Yes, it was
Seaver. Tommy Seaver.
So Mike Seaver, and for folks who know the Mets, they're the franchise. Tom Seaver was the pitcher, but that's not only it. What was their neighbor's name? The Kuzmans. Jerry Kuzman.
69 Mets,
69
man.
Mets. He was their number 2 starter. So it was just a little thing that the creators put in to like
that.
The Seavers and the Kuzmans.
For the love of the Mets. I love that.
Cool.
I love that. All right, we've got a new poll. Meat whistle. Is that
that better be 100% yes. That was a spit take right there. If I had more.
Oh boy. Oh my God. It's like 58%. No, wait. It's coming back. It's coming back. It's coming back. It's making a comeback. Oh, yes. If it hits 60, oh my God. Wow. This is a wild fluctuating poll. It's fascinating to watch. Oh my God. I should call one of the dudes from like one of the news desks that's always dealing with the election polling. Well, look at this, Jay. Are you looking at this poll? It's firing back and forth.
I do see 54 yes. Come on, more yeses. Who's voting no on this?
The motion carries. That's the rule.
54%. Who's voting no on this? How dare they?
I mean, what in the hell? Oh man. That is good. Oh,
Christy says I can hear Allie's Robert Michael.
Oh, she's thinking it for sure. She's down there.
This is what happens when she leaves us alone. We have a poll about meat whistles.
when the cat's away.
So here's the question, Bob.
Yeah.
It's 3:15 now your time, local time 3:13. So where they come back, let's say 3:30ish. If they go into their closings, will we get a verdict today? If they go right into their closings.
Well, it'll depend. It depends on whether or not they've done their instruction conference.
Oh, right. They got to do the right.
I mean, but sometimes, like a lot of times, we handle that prior to the start of trial. Like we'll deal with those, or like after a day of testimony, like we'll handle that. Like we try to handle it where the jury's not sitting there waiting for us. You know what I mean? So we try to stick it in. Sometimes we'll skip a lunch and we'll do the jury conference during the lunch. So it's potentially they've already done it. But then obviously we've got to go through the instructions. There's not a huge amount of charges here. They'll but they still always take 15 to 20 minutes at least at the minimum, because you've got all your basic instructions in terms of describing what certain terms of art mean, and then obviously they're going through the different counts. They'll then go through the verdict slips and all that stuff. So that takes. The question becomes, it being 3:15 now, if they do in fact rest They do closings. I don't anticipate that the closings will take much more. I mean, there really wasn't a ton of evidence. You know what I mean? It's kind of like,
right.
It's one of those cases where the thing speaks for itself. Like,
Exactly.
what else could have happened to her? And full echo, both of them. You know, it's like it seems pretty evident. So, like in terms of the defense, I think they'll have a very brief closing.
Looks like they're back, by the way, Bob. I don't know if you're allowed.
Oh, okay.
Judge Loud is back.
Judge Loudspeaker. All right. So wrap. Okay. Let me put up. He's talking to the jury.
Yeah, he is.
Okay.
I don't hear anything though. To you?
I don't hear anything either.
Actually, I have it up on my. I think the freaking audio was off with the court because I have it on my separate tab and I don't hear anything either.
Yeah, well, it's still because the court is on a short break thing still up on this. You know, see what I'm saying?
Yes, these jabronis, they don't have to freaking put the audio on.
And sleeping on the mic over here. Sleeping on the mic.
He's sure talking to them for a while, so I don't know.
He's saying important things that we're missing.
He's telling them about the closing statements, but I can't tell for sure.
Hand gestures, little hand wringing, ping, like he's counting off on his pinky. He's saying important things. Look,
we need a lip reader.
Where's our lip readers? We know
one time we want to hear Judge Loud and we can't hear him.
And now he's Judge Silent, you know.
It's just Judge Mute.
The irony.
Wake up, Long Crime.
Jesus. It's like the Long Crime guy's taking a shit right now. He's on
he's totally
he's like, oh my God. They're texting him, hurry up. He's like, I'm wiping. Oh no, they're out of toilet paper in my stall.
He's like, I wish they had a bidet and they don't. What is happening? I can't get back there.
I mean, when is America gonna really become civilized and have bidets everywhere?
Yeah, exactly. Good question.
I mean, gee. All right. 60% meat whistles in. That's all we needed.
And we got it. Chalk it up on the big board.
Motion carries. Poll ended. All right. I'm proud of you guys. What in the wide world? What's going on here?
Oh my Lanta. Let me see
Oh boy.
What the chat is saying on theirs. Their screaming sound.
Okay, good.
No sound.
See, it wasn't a Bob. It wasn't a Bob Tech issue. I'm glad to report that. All right. Now let's get back to more important business and keep putting on penis nicknames for polls. I mean, inquiring minds want to know. Inquiring minds want to go. Let's see.
The record will reflect that we are now outside the presence of the jury. Both parties have rested. Any motions that the defense wants to make at this time?
What in the hell?
Your Honor, we would just renew our previous motion.
Okay. Any response from the state other than what has been stated before? No, Judge. All right. I will consider the motion and the same arguments that were previously made and the resistance made by the state for the same reasons I gave before. There is a fact issue that has been generated that the jury will have to rule on. I am going to deny the motion again for judgment of acquittal. Anything else from the defense at this time? From the state?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, we'll go off the record.
Oh, great. That always really throws off the camera guy. They go off the record.
Right. No, we're not going to.
Sheila, we don't know. Obviously, sometime during that period of time when they had the sound off.
Oh, cool. I'm glad they put the sound on the last second there. So hot mic.
Is that on that flash drive?
That's all that's on this.
Is that the video?
Heavy metal, that is standard operating procedure to restate your prior argument at the closing defense. There's, like Alice says, there's case law where if you fail to do that at the closing defense's case, that an argument waived.
Have a good night.
Wait, they're saying good night. What the fuck? And you know what sucks about this? This is a small case relative to like other. I bet you there's not a journalist. Let me see if Kathy Roustan is tweeting what's going on here.
So it sounds like what they decided to do because of the late hour that they decided to allow them to do closings tomorrow morning and then have a full day of deliberations is what I'm guessing.
I don't know of any journalists that are covering this.
So, Judge, on D, I did do an exhibit placement, and I called it court exhibit D. Do I need to do that? Yeah. Well, I think the appellate court can look at it either way. That's what makes a court. Oh. Oh. Well, I think that's why we.
Wow, that we're just getting a hot mic here. We have no idea.
It's chaos, Jay. It's chaos.
By placeholder, I specifically put it that it was a court exhibit. So.
I'll be right back. I got the dogs are outside.
Okay.
Everybody uses placeholders, so everybody uses placeholders in EDMS.
Yeah.
They make photocopies of the disc and upload that.
Wow, had some hot mic moment there. Don't worry, Dom's mom. The first time that Scout ever reads through the chat will be the first time. She's doing 12-year-old things. Not worried about that. We got her we recently purchased at her request what do they call those tables with the lights where she can put on little lip gloss. What do they call those? Oh my God, my brain farting. Somebody will give it to me immediately. Where they sit, the little table, you put your makeup on. It's a lit mirror. Vanity. Thank you, Dom's mom. Simon Cat wins it. Vanity was the first one in. Big winner. Yes. Vanity, you guys are amazing. Well, Captain Winky right now is failing miserably. I don't know what to say about that. 62 votes in. We got 212 in the House. So it appears, if you're joining late or if you didn't catch it, it appears that we are done with court for the day. It very, very much appears that they have released the jury for the day, and that we will be coming back for closing arguments tomorrow morning as the guests. I'm about 98% on that because unfortunately the coverage there at the end was a little bit choppy. So, but it sounded very much like the judge was letting the jury go for the day, which would indicate that closings will take place bright and early tomorrow morning over on Jay's channel, and then they will kick it to deliberations. Jay will do a poll. I suggest we make the over under an hour, maybe even less, 50 minutes maybe. Well, I'll contact Vegas tonight and see what they say. They're always spot on with their lines,
DraftKings or one of those
any of them. It's why I'm convinced that the NFL is fixed. I mean, they can't always be so spot on. It's crazy.
I think it's wild how particularly with baseball, just in general, how we went from or just our society, I guess the states in general, where we went from it was this thing that people, there was sports betting, it was legal, stuff like that, and all of a sudden it's everything. I'm watching the Mets game and it's all right, now we're gonna go to the DraftKings 50. What will the plus 130 to see if Pete Alonso lit her home? I'm you can't get away from it. Anything you watch, it's sports betting. It's wild. I don't know.
It's everything, man. Well, it's the only place you used to be able to sports bet was obviously at the books, in Vegas. And then have they legalized it in New York State?
I can bet on stuff. Yeah, I could bet on all.
They have books in the casinos in Illinois now. They have sports books in there where you can go in. Aside from Sports King,
right.
Kings, and whatever the other one is, which I dipped my toes in there when they first came out. like had worked up a little nut and then blew it on some shit that I didn't want to bet on. I'm like, yeah, I don't know anything about this. I've got a friend that makes these just kind of these like really random, like super high payoff bets. And one of them was a $10 bet, and it was on a random NBA game. And the bet was, I think, $10, and you had to get the exact final score.
Wow.
And so like he hits me up, he texts me, he's like, dude, I just won $27,000 on a 10.
Holy shit.
Dude, it was insane. It was, but like, think about how hard that is.
I mean, that's like impossible. Yeah.
It's like a 1 in a million shot, just because basketball, the scoring's just, yes, it was crazy. It was crazy. He hits on those things because he's always making those kind of plays, just like weird prop bets that, pay off huge if you hit them. So, all right, man. Yeah. Bob Newhart, rest in peace, man. I loved Bob Newhart. I love the Bob Newhart show. It was great. That's for all the boomers, and then all the Gen Xers. I think I was replay crew, or maybe when it was first run, I was a kid and I always watched it. I always thought it was funny. I liked it. Plus it took place in Chicago, so it always had a special little place in my heart. And then it followed up with, whatever the next Newhart show was, my brother Daryl and my other brother Daryl, which was a pretty great show too. So rest in peace, Bob Newhart.
Don't forget his classic appearance in Elf.
Yes. Yes.
His
Elf's dad. Yes. That's a great reference for youngsters who may not know who Bob Newhart was. Yeah, he played Will Ferrell's dad, his elf father.
Yeah.
Up at the North Pole. So yeah, that's sad. It's but he was 94. It's a hell of a run. It's a pretty good run. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
for sure.
But it's still sad. I always hate to see, people that I enjoyed, that gave me years of entertainment passing. So, and it's like you're hitting that next phase where like a lot of the classic actors that you love, that were in so many great movies, are going to start passing away.
You know who I hate to say? Should I say? I don't even know if I want to say, but there's a comedic legend who is still alive, and it's going to be a very, very sad day. Mel Brooks. He's 98 years old.
Wow.
He's like the all-time GOAT in my, like, just one of the funniest.
Man.
He's 98. So he's still alive though.
At all. Yeah. And I think still making movies. Like, he made one recently. There was another.
Yeah, I feel like they did. What in the World, or the something with the world. Like, I feel like he was part of like the new. I forget what the. Movies
yeah,
were.
you're talking about History of the World. Part
yes,
1.
I feel like they made a part 2, and I think he was involved with it.
They did. Yeah, I think so too. It was like a Netflix deal. I think that they it had gone like it was. I don't know that it was theatrically released, but it was definitely on. I think they made it specifically for Netflix. Yeah, dude, legendary. He was just unbelievable. Was that
back? Are they back? I see him.
Let me see.
Few clips I'm okay with letting those in.
Did it skip to a different day?
Clip number 2.
I think it skipped. Check at the thing.
Clip number 3.
What do we think this is?
I'm okay with those.
Day 1.
I can say that.
Yeah, it skipped to day 1.
Oh yeah, it looks like it's done.
Yeah, it's
examination.
Done.
Oh, it's our boy.
Dude, Murdoch.
There he is.
Oh man, what a day this was.
Watch Murdoch's cross.
What a day that was.
Man, what a day that was. Man, leading into that cross, everybody, that was like one of the, just his testimony in general was so highly anticipated. It was
so much.
Man, look at that packed courtroom too. What a great trial that was.
It was.
Really was. Just a great trial. So, all right, man. I think that's it. Like, I feel pretty secure that we are done. And yeah, you know what? I'm with Jay on Big Bang.
The worst. I stand by it, Taryn. I stand by it.
Hard pass on Big Bang, and a hard pass on young whatever his face is, the main character.
Sheldon.
Yeah, young Sheldon. Scarlett actually loved that. She was watching.
My kids like it too, and it disappoints me.
Yeah, it's like she was binging it. I'm like, what? I'm like, you didn't even watch Big Bang. Like, how do you know about this? She's like, I don't know. I think it became like a thing.
I
The
think it did
kids
too,
like
yeah.
started chatting about that young Sheldon was good. It's like, it's barely about young Sheldon. It's about like the whole family. Yeah, no, hard pass for me on that one. So, all right. First of all, first and foremost to our mods, thank you very much for your hard work as always. And right there, right beneath you. Thank you guys we had a great crowd, Jay, for making up with like an early morning pivot. Like, let's do this. We're incredibly grateful that y'all hung with us, and we had a really, really nice crowd. So
yeah,
thank you very, very much. And remember, please, we will be back on Jay's channel tomorrow. So if you are not subscribed over there, please do that. Hit your notifications so they'll let you know, hopefully, when we're going live. But I anticipate we'll probably start it at 8:50 my time, 9:50 Jay's time, anticipating that we're going to be going into closing arguments and then jury deliberations. Jay and I will try to figure out if during deliberations, which we both anticipate will be very short, whether or not we can try to squeeze in a primer for the Black Swan case, which is starting next Tuesday, which Jay and I will be covering together. And don't forget, Jay will be covering the Adelson hearing that is happening on the 22nd. I'll be covering the Reed thing. You guys just, whichever one you're going to watch, just go back and, replay crew the other one. But we love you guys so much. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your generosity. We always appreciate that it means so much for us. And we will see you on the flip. Now hang, because Jay put his outro. So I'm going to play both outros. And if you haven't seen Jay's outro, it's awesome. So we love you guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Hasta mañana. We will see you tomorrow. All right. Later, brother.
Bye.
Joining us, J-Bo Nation. Please give all of yourselves an ovation. No, it won't be real long until next time. Oh, J-Bo Nation, there's no place we'd rather be. J-Bo Nation is the place to be. J-Bo Nation is the place to be. J-Bo Nation is the place to be. J-Bo Nation is the place.